Hi guys, my name's Tyson, and today I'm going to be talking to you about something that I know we all carry, we all love, we all have probably at least 5 or 6 of them. Knives. As outdoor students, we all carry knives. But normally, for some people it's a function thing, for some people it's more of a fashion thing, for some it's just simply to try and one-up your friends, saying, oh, I have the better knife, my knife's cooler than yours. But today we're going to take a little bit more of an in-depth look at them. We're going to look at things like where you can buy them and what their function is and how much they cost, things like that, so that hopefully the next time you go out and buy one, you maybe know a little bit more about them and know a little bit more what you're looking for. So let's get into it.
So as you can see, we have a large variety of different shapes and styles and sizes of knives here, but we're not going to look at every single one. We're just going to look at a couple. We have 3 different styles here. We have the the multi-tool or Swiss Army knives, and these are usually they come with a whole bunch of different components in them, like different blades, saws, corkscrews, things like that. We have the folding locking blades, so they just kind of fold open and lock in place so that you can't bend them back on your fingers, and they come in all different shapes, styles, designs, things like that, which are kind of nice. And then we have what are known as fixed blades or full tang blades, which that means, and what that means is that this part of the blade runs all the way through the handle, all the way to the very end. So it's one solid piece, which means you're not going to break that. There's no give to that anywhere. So we're going to break down a little bit about each different style. Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the different types of multi-tool knives that are out there. So we have ones like this, which is very similar to the classic Swiss Army knife style, where it has just about everything you're going to want for an emergency survival situation. It's got a knife, it's got a saw, corkscrew, all that stuff, if you like drinking wine while you're out on the trails, I guess. And that's what most people commonly know as a multi-tool or a Swiss Army knife. That's what they normally look at. Usually you get stuff like this for probably about 15 to 20 bucks, I would say. This one was custom made for me, so it was a little bit more, not as much, but I don't know how much. It was a gift. You can buy these at just about any outdoor center, anywhere they sell knives of any kind. They're going to have a Swiss Army style, and it will be so at places like Walmart, Canadian Tire, Sale, Bass Pro Shop, stuff like that. And they're usually, I would say, they're one of the best all-around knives that you want to have, but I wouldn't carry it solely as the only knife that I have, because there's a lot of aspects to it. Like this blade isn't necessarily very strong. It could probably break off backwards. I can bend it a little bit, and I wouldn't trust it necessarily. And they're not necessarily convenient. They're always going to be loose in your pocket. They don't have clips on them on the sides like other knives do. So there's good and bad things to both of them. The other style that we have are the actual multi-tool ones, where the difference between this and this is that there's a set of pliers on the multi-tools, always. There's almost always a set of pliers on the multi-tool. But other than that, there isn't really a huge difference. They all have roughly the same stuff. It's still got saws, it's still got screwdrivers, it's still got, some of them still have corkscrews and stuff like that. They all still have a blade on them. So they're all fairly similar, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. This one's a folding one, so it folds up nice and small. This one doesn't fold, so it's a lot of the stuff in there can be a bit stronger and a bit larger. Like the blade on this, it's almost the same size as the folding one, so that's kind of nice. And as with the Swiss Army knives, these can range anywhere from probably about 15 to 20 bucks, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, and you can get them at all the same places. Now we're going to take a look at some of probably the most common, most well-known style of knife, and that's the folding and locking knife, just with a single blade on it. These have four really simple and really generic components. There are some things that have more, but they will all have at least these 4 things. They all have a sheath section where the blade folds into to keep you from cutting yourself. They have a pin, which connects and helps rotate the blade from out of the sheath. It has the blade itself, obviously, which you'll be using to cut with mostly, and it will have a lock of some kind. There are a couple of different styles of lock. This one is just an extra piece of metal that sits just on the inside of the sheath, and you can just bend it back, and that allows you to unlock it so you can close a knife. The other style that we have is one of these. This is a button style, so you kind of push down on the end of it, and that lifts up a little piece down here which allows you to close the blade. So those are the 4 basic things that you're always going to find on one of these knives. But there are always going to be extra things as well. Some things are going to have like a clip like this, so it fits nicely in your pocket and it's easy to get to. Some of them will also have something like this. Now this is what's called a spring-assisted opening knife, and it acts. There's an extra little spring which just helps open it faster. It's a lot quicker than these two. It's just an easier way and looks a lot cooler than having to open one of these like that. Now, a lot of people associate these with something that's illegal, like a switchblade, but a switchblade is slightly different. They have a button on the side, which if you were to accidentally hit in your pocket, would open, and it would there's a good chance it would probably cut you. But since there's a lot more resistance in the spring on these, it's not as easy to open. That's why these are not an illegal thing to have here in Canada, unlike a switchblade, which is why we're allowed to go out and buy them. So you can find these just about anywhere. I think this one was at a flea market. This is from a TSC store, and I'm not sure where this one came from, but probably you can also get them at like Canadian Tire, outdoor centers like Sale, Bass Pro Shops. You can probably find them. You can find them just about anywhere. So these are good for basically these are usually a general purpose knife. It depends on the knife a little bit. I've discovered that this one seems to be the best for just about everything. You can use this to open packages. You can use it to chop vegetables on a camping trip if you wanted. You can use it to carve a stick for something. If you're into whittling or carving, you can use one of these. So it depends on really what the blade's made out of and how sharp it is and everything like this. This one I've discovered doesn't really do much. It's more for flair and style, but it still looks cool. It still works well for opening certain things. It cuts paper, opens milk jugs, all that stuff. They're not really great for anything other than a slicing. As with most knives with a straight edge, they're not really designed to be chopping or hacking or anything like that, or cutting, unless they have a saw feature to it. Or it's just that there's not enough weight to it, and it damages the knife blade. Okay. Now we're going to take a look at what's known as a fixed blade, or a full tang knife, some people might know it as. These are usually a style of hunting knife of some kind, not always, but usually. They will always come with a separate sheath so that the knife slides in there and it clips in for safety, so I can't pull that out. It doesn't accidentally come out and cut anybody. It's a safety feature. But it also provides an extra little flare or something like that, depending on where they are. Like this one's a bright orange camouflage, which I really like. Is kind of cool. The sheaths always have a loop in here, and these are always designed to go on your belt. So instead of having a clip on them like some of the folding knives, or just being loose in a pocket like a multi-tool, this one hangs off the side of your belt, and it kind of bounces around a little bit, but not too much. It's not too bad. Depending on the size of the knife, and some of them strap differently and things like that. These are what's known as a full tang, which means that the entire part of the blade runs all the way down the handle, and the handle is kind of built around the knife instead of being attached together with a pin up here or glued on all the way through. So that's kind of nice. It means it's a lot stronger. There's not going to be any give to that, no play whatsoever. You're not going to be able to break it. You can buy them just about anywhere you want, anywhere that any other type of knives are sold. I know this one came from Canadian Tire. It was about $60, and this was a vintage motorcycle show, like a Harley Davidson booth or something like that they had on display, and it was about $30, I believe. So yeah, you can find them just about anywhere. Sale, Bass Pro Shops, any kind of outdoor center, stuff like that. So there are some good and bad things to some of these. This one, I've noticed that the further away that the blade is from your hand,
the more of a twisting force and turning force you're going to end up exerting onto this instead of a sliding. It's not going to slide very well when you put a lot of pressure on it, especially if you're trying to cut something up here. It's just going to twist on you. That's all it does, is it just twists. It's better to have the blade a lot closer. More like this one. This one it still twists a little bit, but not as much. This is designed, it has something called a gut hook on it, which if you're a fisherman you will probably know about. I'm not a fisherman, but as far as I know, the correct use for it is you would be stabbing the fish either with the head or the tail, and just pulling, you'd stab with this point, and then you just pull this blade along the inside of the stomach, and it'll just slice his stomach open for whenever you have to clean him when you're getting ready to cook them. Which is kind of nice. It's just an extra feature, so it's one less thing that you have to carry as an extra. So again, as with all the other knives, like the folding knife and some of the blades on the multi-tools and stuff like that, these are not really designed for chopping or cutting. They're more of a slicing thing, usually. This one I've actually made the mistake of trying to use for chopping things, and it actually put little tiny nicks and stuff like that in the blade, little spots and splits. So, and you can actually damage and crack the blade of a knife that way if you're not careful with it. But if you treat them properly and keep them in good condition, keep them sharp and stuff like that, they will last forever. This one especially is a much stronger knife. It's a lot more solid, a lot thicker than some of the folding ones. So in good condition, if it's kept in good condition, it will probably last at least twice as long as all the other styles. Something to remember with all these knives is always safety. Doesn't matter what kind of knife, whether it's a multi-tool, fixed blade, anything, doesn't matter. Safety is always your number one concern with this, not what it looks like, things like that, because you want to make sure that people around you are safe. Nobody's going to get hurt when you're using one of these. And the most dangerous knife in the world is a dull one. You always, always, always want to try and keep your knives as sharp as possible, so that it slides. It doesn't require as much force to use. It's not going to slip, jump, and bounce off of your knee or your friend's knee or something else, and somebody's going to get hurt. If you're using a knife to sharpen a stick for marshmallows, maybe around the campfire, try and keep the knife pointed always towards the campfire, and don't let people walk in front of you when you're using it. At the very least, you want to keep it pointed away from all your friends, so that you don't hurt them. I think that's all I have to say about knives. Remember, whether it's a multi-tool, a fixed blade, or a folding, keep it sharp, keep it safe.